Good morning, New Zealand. It is Monday morning, start of a new week, and some pretty awful news out of Australia. So let's get into it. Welcome to Daybreak. Yep, it is the 15th of December, and terrible news that people have probably woken up to this morning. At least 12 people have been shot dead, 29 injured, including 2 police officers at Sydney's Bondi Beach, which I've been to. I can picture the whole beach, the whole area, and perhaps you have as well. 2 gunmen opened fire on a large crowd who were celebrating a Jewish festival. It's been described as a terrorist attack. Well, what else do you describe it as? In fact, the Australian says that it's one of Australia's darkest days. Unthinkable terror arrived at Bondi Beach. It was about 6:40 p.m. on a Sunday, so it was 8:40 over here, 20 to 9 in New Zealand. 20 to 7 on Bondi Beach would have been a beautiful night. Hundreds of people there, and they were celebrating the Hanukkah festival. At the beach, and shots started being fired. The Daily Mail says Australia changed forever, and here are some of the scenes. So you can see that the 2 gunmen, one was killed and one is injured, but you can see they just go up on the bridge and they just start firing. Truly shocking scenes. New South Wales police confirmed at least 12 people were dead, including 1 shooter. Further 29 were rushed to hospital. Across Sydney, 2 officers in serious condition and one of the gunmen in a critical condition. And late on Sunday night, one of the alleged gunmen was identified as a Western Sydney bricklayer, Naveed Akram, who was 24. And several improvised explosive devices were also removed by bomb disposal experts. So you can see there, just on a bridge, taking pot shots, scum of the earth. But amongst all this, there was an incredible act of bravery because a bystander actually went and tackled him. Here's the footage of that. You can see he sneaks up behind him, grabs him, as the guy is shooting people at the Jewish festival. Incredible bravery. Incredible. Let me just show that. So he sneaks up behind him. Could have been shot himself. Just incredible. Incredible scenes. And of course, Israel have rightly said that it's time that Australia got serious about anti-Semitism chants. Perhaps our parliament should also get serious about it, after last week allowing 2 minutes of it just to go on while people just smiled at them. Benjamin Netanyahu held a press conference and he was pretty blunt about it.
On August 17th, about 4 months ago, I sent Prime Minister Albanese of Australia a letter in which I gave him warning that the Australian government's policy was promoting and encouraging anti-Semitism in Australia. I wrote, "Your call for a Palestinian state pours fuel on the anti-Semitic fire. It rewards Hamas terrorism. It emboldens those who menace Australian Jews and encourages the Jew hatred now stalking your streets. Anti-Semitism is a cancer. It spreads when leaders stay silent. It retreats when leaders act. I call upon you to replace weakness with action, appeasement with resolve. Instead, Prime Minister, you replaced weakness with weakness and appeasement with more appeasement. Your government did nothing to stop the spread of anti-Semitism in Australia. You did nothing to curb the cancer cells that were growing inside your country. You took no action. You let the disease spread. And the result is the horrific attacks on Jews we saw today. we saw an action of a brave man, turns out a Muslim brave man, and I salute him, that stopped one of these terrorists from killing innocent Jews. But it requires the action of your government, which you're not taking.
Yeah, and so more comments were made on that. This was one of the gunmen. Interesting that it was a Muslim that did this incredible act of heroism and stopped the shooting.
Oh,
That's quite incredible. Yeah, but it is a really, really dark day. And it just, unfortunately, the rhetoric just keeps on going, and people turn a blind eye. And if you turn up with an Israeli flag, then the police are more focused on you than actually the protesters marching across the Harbour Bridge or marching up Queen Street or wherever they want to march. And of course, there's no comment about other countries where there is persecution going on as well, Christian persecution, none of that. So yeah, a really dark day in Australia, and I think around the world this is going to be a real wake-up call. And actually, I was just reading Prime Minister Chris Luxon's media release that he posted, and he says, Australia and New Zealand are closer than friends, we're family. I am shocked by the distressing scenes at Bondi, a place that Kiwis visit every day. My thoughts and the thoughts of all New Zealanders are with those affected. Probably could have called it out for what it is, isn't it? An anti-Semitic terrorist attack. Yeah. So please pray for the Jewish communities. It'll be frightening news for the Jewish community in New Zealand as well. Could happen anywhere around the world. Difficult to talk about other news today because this is going to be the main theme of today, and rightly so, as we gather around and strengthen and support the Jewish community. But interestingly, of course, there was that tragedy earlier this year, and Time magazine just couldn't bring themselves to name Charlie Kirk, despite the massive worldwide interest in what happened. Yeah, couldn't name him as the person of the year. Instead, they named AI, which isn't even a person. I guess it's those people on the right there that actually invented AI. But yeah, snubbed Charlie Kirk. Look, just before I go on further, I am just going to have some comments, because you are piling in with your comments. Mike says Brown University in the US also had a shooting. Person yelled out, guess what? Before the shooting. Sue is in Sydney. Horrific here in Sydney, Bob. Prime Minister Albanese and Wong have a lot to answer for, and a lot of anger from Australians. Simply Green says it was brave. I commend him. Also dumb. Well, you don't think about dumb when you're saving people's lives. I just take my hat off to that guy who did that. Monica says this government has got blood on their hands, weak leadership. I assume you're talking about the Australian government. You might be talking about the New Zealand government, maybe. Dean says the Herald allowed their Jew hate speech on the chat. Interesting. They should have shut down the chat. They normally would. If it involved Jacinda, they would have shut down the chat. But yeah, I hope they do. Rosie says those scum of the earth don't deserve to walk this earth anymore. And Harrison says rightly, I might have to get an Israel flag in support of the victims. Exactly right. Perhaps we should all do that. And Mike says all these leaders saying our thoughts are with you, no mentions of prayers. Actually, you're right. I just noticed Christopher Luxon didn't say that. He said my thoughts and the thoughts of all New Zealanders are with those affected. Normally the standard statement is our thoughts and prayers are with you, given that they were at a prayer festival, weren't they, at the time that this horrific attack took place. So it's sobering start to the week, sobering start to the festive season. What is it? Christmas Day is 10 days away. 10 days away, and you've got this horrific attack in Bondi, which sort of feels very close to home, doesn't it? And it feels like part of us. because so many of us have been to Bondi Beach. We all relate to Sydney. It's not that far away. And the sentiment that was there, unfortunately, is still there. Muddy Waters says, I was there last year when the synagogue was attacked in Melbourne. Remember that? What did the Aussie government think would happen next? Well, yeah, part of the problem is that they've allowed this rhetoric to continue to be used on the street. Anyway, look, let's just look at some of the other news around, but of course, not taking the focus on the horrific news coming out of Bondi today. So this is all sort of pales in comparison in some ways, although I note in Canada, they've got a new hate speech bill, and the hate speech bill targets specifically, it's got a so-called religious exemption that protects Canadians who in good faith cite religious texts. So in other words, they cite the Bible. But the left-wing Liberal and Bloc parties are currently negotiating new legislation, Bill C9, with an amendment that would remove this exemption. The bill sponsors say it's necessary to combat hate crimes. It'll only be Bible verses that they can't quote, of course, but Conservatives are warning it could be used to suppress Canadians' most basic rights, and it's an all-out assault on religious freedom as well. So that's in Canada. That is very concerning as well. What else did we have? Oh, interesting. The Wall Street Journal, they had an opinion piece saying that 2 new studies are showing that actually dope isn't good for you, and especially the high potency dope. Golly, we dodged a bullet in 2020 when we won that referendum. Just no thanks to the media. And Massachusetts is now looking at having a referendum because they're not happy and they want to reverse the 2016 legalization of recreational cannabis use. And they're not the only ones. Oregon as well. And there's also some other states that are concerned. California and New York are seeing the effect. So, you know, it's a bit like the canary in the mine. New Zealand dodged a bullet, and the longer this goes on, the more the evidence is going to pile up against anybody who tries to argue that we should legalise cannabis. Although, if Labour, Greens and Te Pāti Māori form the next government at the end of next year, you can guarantee it's going to be on the agenda. One of the lead stories in the New Zealand Herald, apart from the horrific scenes at Bondi Beach, is about a baby boom, and talking about countries in Europe are trying for a baby boom. Interestingly, they don't talk about New Zealand, where we need a baby boom as well, because our fertility rate is going through the floor, and that's why we need immigration to boost our numbers. And it talks about the fact that there's basically a demographic winter, and there was some great comments from Viktor Orban from Hungary, Hungary has done a lot. They are spending up to 6% of their GDP. Just to put that in context, this is the GDP being spent directly on family benefits. And you can see there New Zealand, I've got the arrow there, New Zealand is just below the OECD average, but it's at around 2.5. Hungary is spending up to 6% of their GDP on promoting family fertility, better tax rates for families that have lots of children. And refreshing comments coming out from Viktor Orban. Have a listen.
We know that family is the place to transfer the values of parents to the next generation. If traditional families are gone, there is nothing that can save the West from going under. Therefore, last year in Hungary, we spent more than 6% of our GDP on family policy. All subsidies are already available to families following conception. Families automatically get tax breaks. The state takes over your student loans after your third child. Women are exempt from paying personal income tax for life after the birth of their fourth child. And we are fighting to extend the same zero tax policy for mothers with 3 children. So, If you are not married yet, you should immediately find a Hungarian wife. In the last 10 years, ladies and gentlemen, the last 10 years, the number of marriages has doubled and the number of abortions has halved in Hungary. It's not a bad start.
Yeah, there we go. So you can see why the EU hates Hungary, because they're so conservative and they're promoting natural family, they're promoting marriage, they're discouraging abortion, and they're promoting families to have lots of kids. Go forth and multiply. And that's exactly what you want. Jacqueline says, why do we need immigration to boost our numbers? Well, the problem is, Jacqueline, we've got an aging population. And as your population ages, you've got to pay them the pension. You've got to look after them. You're going to have to look after people like me. And to do that, you need a workforce, a younger workforce who is paying taxes so that we can retire. And the problem is we are top heavy at the moment. We've got lots of old people. We've got a burgeoning demand for elderly assistance and all that type of stuff, but we don't have the fertility rate. We're not replacing our population. And you need the younger population to look after the older population. It's just a basic country survival type thing. Fourth Adam says good incentives to have children. It is tax breaks. They were giving out people movers if you have like 5 or more kids. Tax breaks for mums. They were giving financial assistance to grandparents who look after the kids as well. So yeah, there was just some great policies coming out. And as you can see, Hungary is doing amazingly because of the fact that it is 6%. You can see there at the moment that the highest is around just under 4%. So they really are doing a fantastic job. All right, speaking of deception, nothing's better than the way the media are handling the whole Epstein files thing. So this is a photo that was released by the Democrats. So there's tens of thousands of photos, but the Democrats just release a few and they scribble over the faces of some for very good reason, actually. So this is one of the photos that the Democrats released, but they didn't release the whole photo because they actually cropped it. This is the full photo. Oops. So this is the photo the Democrats released because they wanted to implicate these two, Gates and Prince Andrew, but they didn't want to implicate the king. Interesting. So you can see that they're butchering the photos. And then there's another one which shows Trump standing with a whole lot of women. And the faces are masked out. And so it's designed to make it look like they're underage. But apparently it's a very old photo. And it's over the faces of women who are over the age of 20. They were models representing a well-known American suntan lotion brand, Hawaiian Tropic. I've used that. And one of the women, who was 22 at the time the photo was taken, told the Telegraph just over the weekend that Donald Trump was a gentleman, went out of his way to ensure their entire group enjoyed their time at Mar-a-Lago. She said, I was 22 years old and remember him being very nice. He was very gentlemanly. That's the word to describe him. Not a single one of them accused Trump of doing anything wrong. So let's have a watch of the One News coverage on Saturday night, and let's see if they use this photo, which actually should be this photo, and see if they show the photo of Trump with a whole lot of girls, except the girls' faces are masked out so that they're designed to look underage. Let's just check, shall we?
Democrats delivering another Jeffrey Epstein bombshell, releasing a new tranche of images they say are from the disgraced billionaire's computer and emails, like this, showing Donald Trump next to 6 women, their faces redacted. A rare image of former Democrat President Bill Clinton, former Prince Andrew with Microsoft founder Bill Gates. The context of these images is not known and don't themselves imply wrongdoing.
No, they don't, but you're still implying it anyway, aren't you, Logan, and One News? Yeah. Anyway, that's why One News has no credibility. In fact, the media don't. Anyway. Now, I was at a concert on Saturday night. It was Kirk Franklin if you don't know who Kirk Franklin is, you might recognize this song. You can't hear me singing, fortunately. Yeah, so this is Kirk Franklin. He's over. He's actually quite a funny performer. I just have to show you this bit because he does do a funny smile. Yeah, now, if you've ever watched the actual official music video, you'll see he does that as well. But it was a great concert, amazing concert of worship. And at the end, there was obviously a lot of Samoans there because they just broke into this impromptu Samoan hymn. And of course, that blew away the Americans and the band and the singers, and they came out and were videoing the audience. And then there was a Māori contingent as well, and they broke out into a waiata and haka. So there was a lot of culture going on. It was fantastic for Kirk Franklin. But the reason I say this is not to skite about the fact I went to a great concert on Saturday night, but as Kirk Franklin is leaving the country, in fact, I think he's in Sydney today. As Kirk Franklin was leaving the country, guess who arrived? Oprah Winfrey. And actually, she's going to be at the same venue, I think, Civic. They were going to do it at Spark, but they couldn't get the crowd there, so they've gone to the Civic. But there's an interesting article. Apparently, let me just read it. Television personality Oprah Winfrey delved into the rise of family estrangement. It's known as no contact. No contact is just what it sounds like. Abstaining from contact with someone, usually a family member or multiple family members, indefinitely. And Oprah used to say, I think some of it's good, reaching a state where you're able to honour and protect your own emotional and mental health. Have we gone too far? That's the question. She said a Cornell University study now shows that almost 1/3 of Americans are actively estranged from a family member. And she refers to it as a silent epidemic. The problem is that Oprah was one of the ones who promoted this type of messaging. And there's a family and relationship coach, Tanya Kazal, who obviously has a big following, bit of an influencer. I hadn't heard of her, but I have now. And she made some commentary about this. Have a listen.
So now Oprah is shocked by the aftermath of estrangement after being one of the biggest voices pushing it for decades. Oprah, the biggest plot twist in the entire family estrangement crisis. While everyone is applauding her for finally discussing estrangement, very few look at the irony and the contradiction. Oprah was one of the strongest voices pushing the normalization of family cutoffs, and not by accident, publicly, repeatedly, and openly. And this started as far back as the 90s. And it continued for decades right into 2025. And look at the trail. She wasn't neutral. She wasn't asking questions. She amplified the very messaging that contributed to millions of parents and children walking away from one another. And now she hosts a discussion with estranged parents and estranged kids and speaking on estrangement like it's some sudden heartbreaking epidemic that she had no hand in shaping. As if she's shocked, as if she's observing the disaster from the outside, as if she didn't help lay the foundation and now picked up a microphone and said, wow, how did this happen? And I'm not saying that we shouldn't talk about estrangement. We need to, clearly and desperately. But let's not rewrite history. You cannot promote cutting off family for so many years, decades, and then come back acting like you're here to fix it. Estrangement isn't entertainment or a trending conversation piece. It's real families, real grief, parents dying without hearing their child's voice. Generations are now breaking, families getting destroyed. And I speak on estrangement because the damage didn't end in these headlines. It lives in people's homes, in empty Christmas seats, and in blocked numbers, and the regret that arrives too late. But let's talk about the truth, not the highlight reel. Let's talk about what repair talks, and what that means, and what repair actually takes, because that's part that no one teaches you, and that's exactly why I'm here.
Yeah, interesting. So, she's promoting reconciliation, and suddenly Oprah has realized that actually this whole no contact trend has had a negative effect rather than seeking reconciliation and forgiveness. Just before we go, just back to this horrific attack in Bondi, which you may be just waking up to and only becoming aware of. 12 killed, 29 injured, Jewish festival happening on Bondi Beach. Two mongrels opened attack. One of them has been identified as a Western Sydney bricklayer, 24-year-old Naveed Akram. But I was just reading on Daily Wire, they said that the rabbi who was killed in the attack last night had warned months earlier that the government must not betray the Jewish people. Rabbi Eli Schlanger, who was the organizer of the event, was among the 12 killed. And apparently, according to Israel's Channel 12, Schlanger directly addressed Albanese, the Prime Minister, who had frequently criticized Israel, in a letter urging him not to betray the Jewish people. He wrote, quote, "As a rabbi in Sydney, I beg you not to betray the Jewish people, not God himself. Jews have been torn from their land again and again by leaders who are now remembered with contempt in the pages of history." Yeah. And his last post on X said, "The best response to combat anti-Semitism is to display more menorahs, including electric ones, on top of cars and in a vehicle. He can be seen smiling and dancing." Unfortunately, he lost his life last night. So, yeah, as the Australian says, it's one of Australia's darkest days yesterday, and Australia has been changed forever. That's one of the killers shown there. That's the bricklayer. So, look, this is actually the final episode of Daybreak for the year. We will be back in the new year. But I was thinking, gosh, how do you finish on a day like this with this type of news? And so I thought, well, how applicable for me just to remind you of the most Googled Bible verse according to YouVersion Bible app. And very applicable, I think, as we pray for the Jewish people and pray for Israelis in New Zealand and Australia, the Jewish community in general. Isaiah 41:10, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." Yeah. So I leave you with that. Please pray for the Jewish community. They need our prayers and practical support in any way. All right. Very sober way to finish up Daybreak for the year. But it reminds us we've got a lot of work to do to save our culture, don't we? Which is probably part of the reason that we have Daybreak. I'm sure Simon will be commenting on this tomorrow in Solid Ground as well. Anyway, tough to say Merry Christmas. May you know the peace and joy of the birth of Jesus, remembering the birth of Jesus and remembering why he came to save us from our sins. So Merry Christmas, everybody. And we will see you in the new year.